Hello, I'm Ivan Makedonsky. In today's lesson, I will tell you about the red wines from the cross-border region Greece, Bulgaria, their characteristics, method of production, and approaches to serving them. This video lesson will give you knowledge important for the sommelier profession and those working in the Horega sector. We will learn how to build your skills and be better in the profession. This professional video tutorial for sommeliers was created under the project Agro-Tourism Business Academy, a system supporting small and medium-sized enterprises. The project is co-funded by the program Interreg 5A Greece Bulgaria 2014-2020 and the national budgets of the two countries. We wish you a pleasant watching. We have chosen very interesting selection of wines that define the rare characteristics of these areas. We start with the first part of the lesson, namely opening, presenting the bottle to the guest and tasting it. The important steps to follow to be good professionals. Accordingly, the first most important thing to have a specialist or someone dealing with the wine is the corkscrew. It is very important too for all those involved in this profession. It consists of cutter blade, spiral, and the so-called napkin, which will serve and decant the wine. It is an irreplaceable implement of any self-respecting professional. We move on to opening of the first red wine and demonstration of how the process itself happens, removing the flow slowly and careful to maximum protection of the initial look. Sometimes there are wines with more seriously made foils as materials, and you have to be more assertive and make a better cut. Everything should happen very elegantly and with ease and relatively quickly. Then we wipe the neck with the napkin, because there can be any particles of the foil or metal elements related to the foil. Then we open the corkscrew and focus on the center of the cork so that we can open the wine properly. Wind the spiral of the corkscrew up to a turn and a half. It should be diagonally on the chest. This is the etiquette. This is the first phase, slowly and carefully, and you can make this slight movement so there will be no noise or crack without a sudden entry of oxygen to the wine. We smell the cork, very important part of the opening, before presenting it to the guest for their analysis. After it, we go to the next part, namely wine tasting, organoleptic analysis, and serving to the guest. This is what the proper way to open a bottle of wine actually looks like. Once we have already opened the bottle of wine, we move on to wine tasting itself, or organoleptic analysis. In this case, we will start with an exceptional, interesting Bulgarian wine from the region of the village of Smochevo, Bulgaria. It's Medivali winery. The introduced grape variety is not native to the area, but it grows extremely well here. It is the classic Merlot variety. I will now make the organoleptic analysis. Again, I remind you that the tasting amount must be minimal in the glass to make a good organoleptics. And again, first we look at the color of wine, its body, because through the eye we see, it shows us whether it is transparent, whether it is dense, what is the saturation of the color. The color here is dark, beautiful ruby color. The scent is divided in two steps, first and second nose. The first nose is when directly after serving we approach the nose, and the second is when we slightly swirl the glass and check the aromatic profile again. Analysis can be like gradual happening, step by step, color, aroma, taste, and aftertaste. And the already well-developed professional can create a general picture. Together, color, aroma, and taste. The aroma here is intense of dark berries, cinnamon, smoked tobacco. This is of course due to the developed terroir aromas which are influenced by the aging of the wine in a oak barrel. Finish is juicy, fruity, slightly spicy, long and memorable. A very harmonious wine with a potential for development and aging in a bottle. We pour out and continue to the next wine. We are moving to the region of drama, Greece. Here we'll meet Chateau Nicola Zaridi, Cabernet Sauvignon 100%, Landorin is the wine. And now we'll do an organoleptic analysis and see how it compares to its vintage 2020, a very good vintage overall for the wine region. The color again is deep red, intensive, with slightly more purple shades, beautiful and clear color. The aroma is deep and complex. It is rich in spices, dark berries, roasted stone fruit. It is sensed in the taste as well, very good balance, with a good full body, but also a pleasant freshness coming from the terroir. The aftertaste is soft, velvety, as well as the tanniness in the wine, an elegant and well-structured Cabernet Sauvignon wine. The next one we'll taste is from Aya Estate, a wine cellar which is located in southwestern Bulgaria, in the region of Melnik. The variety is Shiroka Melniška Loza, an old traditional grape variety of Bulgaria that has late ripening, gives extremely intense and dense red wines with potential for development and aging of wines. We are going to try it now and see what it tells us. It is good for red wines, whether for tasting or drinking, to be opened a few hours earlier depending on the vintage and style, at least 2 to 3 hours before tasting to aerate and open their bouquet and communication to be better with them. With Aya Estate Shiroka Melniška Loza we have almost a similar color, but here we observe a slightly raspberry cherry shades. Otherwise, the main colors is a solid red, ruby color. On the nose, we directly detect, because of the Shiroka Melniška Loza, strongly pronounced tone fruits such as blue plum, chocolate tones, earthy aromas like dry leaves, mushrooms. This is the category of these aromas. It is good to chew the wine, aerate it in the oral cavity to make a qualitative analysis. A nice finish, medium to full body, harmonious, velvet, and definitely rounded. Wine ready for consumption, but also with potential for aging. With most red wines, especially such those with additional technological treatments, it is quite normal. We move on to the next wine, again on Greek territory. Nicola Zaridis is the producer. Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Sangiovese is the varietal composition. Non-local varieties, Sangiovese is particularly uncharacteristic, but with very good indicators in this one region. A typical Italian variety, Tuscany, from Latin it means blood of Jupiter. We will try it now. The vintage is 2018, 4 years old, aged in bottle, and I imagine it will show an interesting aroma and taste profile and serious wealth. The color is dark red with rusty shades because it's a bit older wine. It is influenced by maturity, although it is only 4 years old. On the nose, confitons, berries, leather, musks are found. At the same time, there is also a herbal note influenced maybe by the Sangiovese and terroir. We'll see the taste now. Lots of fruit on the palate, juicy, rounded, very good structure of tannins and acids. Absolutely finished with a nice and juicy finish with the memory of ripe juicy cherry. And here I think there will be time for even better development. The next one we will taste with you is a statement on Lesakis, a winery that works exceptionally well with both traditional and classic varieties. Here we have Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot and Lignon, composition of classic grape varieties and the local Greek variety Lignon. We'll taste it now too. The vintage is 2018, just like the previous product. The color is more transparent. Again, we can say those ruby and tau shades. Very pleasant, beautiful color. On the first nose, a juicy, ripe black cherry and an aroma of cinnamon appear like aroma, extremely rich. Spices such cardamom and cloves are found. A pleasant, elegant red wine with good freshness for the vintage. This is very important for wines because the acids build the skeleton of wine and gives potential for development. Great finish, medium body, rounded, elegant and subtle. Again, potential for aging. The next and final one in our selection of red wines is Villa Melnik and their series of rare Bulgarian varieties. Here we have Shiroka Melnishka Loza. Again, as with Thai Estate, we're talking about an intensity, density, and a power that gives serious and robust wines. We serve and taste to see how it behaves and sits in the glass. There it is, that beautiful dark grayish red color and those light tau shades. Strong concentration of fruit notes of confitons, plum, sweet pepper, black pepper, various wild berries, like wild strawberry and more. In the taste, the wine is dense, round body, very juicy, sweetness. It's from the blue plum and berries, slightly spoiled maybe. spices like cloves, which passes and continues to the aftertaste, where dark forest fruits still dominate. A stone fruit memory wine that is yet to show its potential that can easily age between 5 to 10 years. So these are very interesting wines from the cross-border region in Greece, Bulgaria. Here we really show some interesting wines. And about the technology of red wines and how exactly they happen, we find out in the next stage of this lesson. So we continue with the next part of our red wine tutorial, namely the red wine technology itself. For this person, we have moved to the technological base in the winery, where the magic of wine happens. Red wines are so diverse, interesting, and different that there are countless technological practices and technologies that change over time. Different regions and history also affect the wine. There are endless oceans of wines offered to the society right now, any kind. With red wines, however, the diversity is extraordinary. Almost every country works with its specifics, and they are sometimes tied to the very important factor terroir, which includes climatic conditions, soil composition, weather, or microorganism, and above all, people. If the human interferes with its character, his powers, he changes, acts, and creates entirely new paths that wine doesn't even suppose it can walk. Red wines technologically happen in the following way. If we go back in time, wine was made like this. You go and pick the grapes, harvest them in the winery, and place them in the appropriate vessel. It could be a steel fermenter, earthen jar, barrel, and so on. In general, the natural processes are following: placing the grapes, which have previously been destamped, in which the upper layers suppress the lower ones, carbon dioxide and heat are released, and accordingly, alcohol is released into grape juice, which will later turn into wine. Of course, there are two very important fermentations: turbulent alcoholic fermentation and quiet one for all kinds of wines. They form the character of the wine, its profile, and if we can put it in more emotionally, its sensibility. So following these processes, it would be fair to say that we can really get a good wine with good raw material and a very serious work in the cellar. After the turbulent alcoholic fermentation, most often in a fermenter, after it has passed, the wine must be separated, drained from this vessel, and redirected to quiet alcoholic fermentation. After this process, we have additional treatments: staining in an oak barrel, acacia, cherry, and we can work with different kinds of barrels. Accordingly, for red wines, and not only, this also applies to white wines, the type of barrel and its degree of roasting are of great importance. Whether it is medium, well roasted, it's about the arcs. This actually forms the aroma, flavor profile, and body of the wine. Of course, we must know the given raw material, whether it is Merlot, Cabernet, Sangiovese, Meunier, or Rubin. Knowing the characteristics of the respective grape variety, we will know how to approach it. What I like to say is that anyone who knows his own vineyard or grape growing as a culture, he could make a quality wine. After we have separated the wine from the barrels, it goes on this way. It is good to know that with red wines there is a certain retention which is reasonable to occur with the other groups of wines as well. I mean that wine is put into the bottle and goes through a stage of mild maturation for at least a few months before it goes to the end consumer. In general, wine should be given great attention and respect. It is no coincidence that when biodynamic practices are applied in wine production, it is about a musical arrangement around the wine, a specific temperature, light, connected to the moon, the sun. Even if this sounds a little crazy to some people, we, wine professionals, strongly believe in this science because this is science. It is much more difficult so that you can get a quality product at the end. Everything we find in a glass of wine tells a whole story, from the vineyard, from the transportation to the bottle. In fact, no matter how well we know wine technology, to be good technologists, to be good specialists, to know details such as temperature and yeast composition for a good fermentation, be turbulent or silent, wine sometimes plays its own plots and you can never say, I have met and followed the exact parameters and now cause it to ferment. No, sometimes it surprises us and starts working for us when it decides it on its own. Try and test red wines, be curious, and you will discover the most unexpected horizons. Here is the third part of our video tutorial about the cross-border region of Greece, Bulgaria, related to red wines. This is really the most interesting part of the lesson because we will talk about serving. We will show how to decant for aeration and how to combine red wines with different white and yellow cheeses, and a very interesting dish that you will learn a little more about later in this part. The first thing I will show you is how to aerate red wine and how to serve it. Here serving takes place at a greater distance from the rim of the glass and the neck of the bottle, 2 to 3 centimeters, because red wines have a more pronounced aromatic bouquet. This will ensure oxygen saturation to open up to the guest. We are showing it now. The decanter is one of the vessels that is used not only by sommeliers, but also by people working in the HoReCa sector, hotels, restaurants, and wine tourism. We hold the decanter with the left hand and the bottle with the right. The label is again facing the guest all the time. We have to do something like a show for the guest. We begin to transfer the wine from the bottle to the decanter. This should be done slowly and carefully, just as I am demonstrating to you right now. If it is done entirely for the purpose of decanting or sedimental removal, and if I observe this, I have to stop, count the bottle and continue again. All the red wines, for example, from the 90s, 2000, should be allowed to stand for at least 24 hours in a vertical position. This is done in order to remove the sediment to the very bottom of the bottle. The sediment should be to the very bottom. And one more very important thing. The moment you start to feel the content in the bottle decrease, you must be ready to leave a minimum about 1 centimeter or centimeter and a half without allowing to pass into the decanter to prevent the appearance of sediments in the wine. Then we aerate with this movement, the wine with rotating movements of the decanter. We saturate it with air. We begin to serve moving clockwise and to the right of the guest. This is it. Nothing further is done. Place the decanter on the table if there is enough place, or on some side table or somewhere near the guest table. And all the times guests must be able to look at the wine. We'll move on to food and pairing with red wine. Cheese is ripe, hard, having high or low fat relative to the wine selected. In our case, we have Bulgarian wine from local traditional varieties. Medivali Winery, Gumza, Rubin, Melnik, a complex and rich wine. A good company fruit can make cheeses that are fatter, denser, more mature. However, I have chosen a more unusual dish. It intertwines the two regions in a very interesting way, precisely products from the cross-border region Greece-Bulgaria. What do I mean? I have young view from Bulgaria, and the cheese to create this carpaccio variation is from Greece. In this way, a complex dish is organized terroir to terroir, or a general union of taste, so that we get a perfect and harmonious dish to complement this red wine. This would lead to a delight of the guest, a real feast for the palate. So try different red wines, experiment both in and out of the kitchen, and create new worlds.